How to learn science in the best way. Natural sciences refer to scientific disciplines concerned with understanding, exploring, or developing the natural world. There are two primary branches: physical sciences, including physics and chemistry, and life sciences. Earth science, which studies Earth and space, can be considered a branch of physics. Basically, what science wants to solve is to understand how natural world works and how to best use it to benefit ourselves. Learning science is a very practical skill. You need to do lots of experiments to better understand how it works and how to use it. You also need solid math foundation to learn science. In many cases, science is not straightforward and you can't really touch it or feel it. So people need to use mathematical models to understand science. For example, Einstein's theory of relativity about time and space. You can't observe it, you have to use math to figure it out. To better utilize science, people have created many laws and formulas about science. The application of science theories for practical use is called technologies. Science can study any subjects, as tiny as an atom, or as big as the universe. However, there are some limits to scientific research. It could be hard to find solid evidence for some subjects. So there are some hypotheses built around those subjects. Science is not always true, but presents the best model to understand how it works. For example, the Big Bang theory about the birth of the universe, or Darwin's theory of biological evolution by natural selection. Scientists could find better models to explain how it works in the future. If you want to understand the foundation of all sciences, you need to understand two most important concepts: matter and energy. Matter is anything that has mass and takes up space. The smallest unit of matter is called an atom. Atomic model is a proven model that is commonly recognized. In this model, there are three types of subparticles in an atom: protons, neutrons, and electrons. Protons are positively charged particles. Neutrons are electrically neutral particles, while electrons are negatively charged particles with almost no mass. Protons and neutrons stick together to form the center of an atom, called the nucleus, with a positive charge. Electrons circle around the nucleus to form an electron cloud. The number of electrons are always equal to the number of protons, so that an atom is electrically neutral. Because electrons are constantly moving, we can only predict the probability of finding an electron in certain zones, or rings, which of those is also called an energy level. The energy level closest to the nucleus can only hold up to 2 electrons. The second closest level can hold up to 8 electrons. Then it will become more complex because you need to understand sublevels to figure out how much electrons in each energy level. There are 5 sublevels: S, P, D, F, G. S level can hold 2 electrons, P level can hold 6 electrons, D level can hold 10 electrons, F level can hold 14 electrons, and G level can hold 18 electrons. Here is what it looks like. Number 1 to 5 is the main level, while S, P, D, F are the sublevels. So, after you fill in 8 electrons on the third main level, you need to fill in 2 electrons on the fourth main level before you can fill in additional 10 electrons on the third main level. You don't need to memorize this, but you need to understand the concept. Different types of atoms are called elements. In order to better understand the characteristics of each element, people have developed the periodic table. Each element is assigned a chemical symbol. Above that symbol is atomic number, or the number of protons or electrons. Below that symbol is atomic mass, which is the sum of the numbers of protons and neutrons. Each horizontal row is called a period, while each vertical column is called a group or family. Groups of elements have similar physical and chemical properties. When 2 or more atoms combine, they form molecules. Molecules can also combine with other molecules to form molecular compounds, which involve 2 or more different elements. When 2 or more atoms join together, it is called bonding. Protons and neutrons are not directly involved in bonding. Electrons are shared or transferred between 2 or more atoms in a bond, and this forms a molecule. Only electrons in the outer rings form bonds. Atoms and molecules bond together to become more stable. That is to say that they try to attain the lowest possible energy state. If you understand the energy level and sublevels, you know that 2 electrons are the most stable for the first main level, and 8 electrons are the most stable for the second main level. So 2 hydrogen atoms will form 1 hydrogen molecule, 2 oxygen atoms will form 1 oxygen molecule, or dioxygen. In the meantime, Two hydrogen atoms and one oxygen atom can also form one water molecule, or H2O. To break a bond, you have to add enough energy to make the bond no longer favorable. For this reason, bonds are often hard to break. There are two types of bonds. Ionic bonds occur between metals and nonmetals. Covalent bonds occur between two nonmetals. In an ionic bond, electrons are more likely to be found at one end of a molecule than the other. This results in a negatively charged and positively charged end of the molecule. Covalent bonds share electrons more evenly. A chemical formula describes the ingredients and their quantities. For example, sugar's chemical formula is C12H22O11. Here are some common chemical formulas. A chemical reaction is a process that leads to the chemical transformation of one set of chemical substances to another. For example, when you mix hydrogen gas H2 and oxygen gas O2 together, add a spark or sufficient heat to provide the activation energy to start the reaction, they will turn to water, H2O. On the other hand, if you pass an electric current through the water H2O, it will be decomposed into hydrogen and oxygen. To better present a chemical reaction, you can use a chemical equation, which provides the information about the starting compounds, the reactants, on the left, and the final compounds, the products, on the right, separated by an arrow. For example, H2 plus O2 becomes H2O. But you need to balance the numbers of all atoms on both sides. So, the equation should be 2H2 plus O2 becomes 2H2O. You only need some basic algebra skills to work out the equation. There are many fancy chemical equations that frequently show up in the science channels or STEM games, which can make learning chemistry much more interesting. Here are some important chemical equations. For example, photosynthesis is an important chemical reaction for plant, where carbon dioxide and water combine in the presence of sunlight to produce oxygen and sugar. Once you understand the atomic model, you know that everything is made of atoms. Any living organism, including plants, animals, and humans, is mostly made of four elements: carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. There are primarily three states of matter: solid, liquid, and gas, which are all made up of atoms, molecules, and ions. Ion is an atom or molecule with a net electric charge due to the loss or gain of one or more electrons. In solid state, those particles are kept together tightly enough so that they do not move past each other. The particles in a liquid usually are still touching, but there are some spaces between them. The gas particles have big distances between them. A fourth state of matter, called plasma, exists when a gas becomes ionized. Plasma exists inside stars and in interstellar gases.